Big Ten, and Pac-12 postponing their seasons. There'll be no college football this fall in those conferences. And at Nebraska, Coach Scott Frost says his team will look at all options. After the Big Ten decision yesterday, the school's president, chancellor, athletic director, and the coach, Frost, released this statement. We are very disappointed in the decision by the Big Ten Conference to postpone the fall football season, as we have been and continue to be ready to play. We will continue to consult with medical experts and evaluate the situation as it emerges. We hope it may be possible for our student athletes to have the ability to compete. So could they go rogue? Here's our Michael Wilbon with his thoughts.
I'm going to use the word applaud the presidents and for not listening to the likes of the people at Nebraska, a school that comes in and is doing the biggest whining. Because you know what I hope somebody on that call said to Nebraska's representatives, even as president? Get the hell out.
Yeah.
If you want to turn and tuck tail after you receive $52 million of guaranteed TV money every year, then go. I understand the football coaches want to play and the players want to play. I want to see them play.
Yeah.
But the presidents have to exert something and exercise something we haven't seen much of in the country when it comes to the pandemic, and that is leadership.
Strong words from Michael Wilbon. Here's Heather Dinich. I know you spoke, as you mentioned, to the Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren yesterday. What did he say about the possibility of teams defecting, for lack of a better word, for a season?
I asked him specifically, Greeny, about Nebraska going rogue, and he said, my expectation is that when you're in a conference, you can't be in a conference and be an independent. He said, that's where we are. I expect for our 14 members to go forward together.
Fascinating. So he's leaving it there, but no, for lack of a better word, threats or thoughts on what, if any, consequences there might be if Nebraska tried to do that?
No, he didn't take it any further. As a matter of fact, he was pretty kind about it. He said, I saw this statement and I looked at it and I thought, they're pretty passionate people. I'm going to go ahead and decipher that as them being pretty passionate, and this is emotional. And that's when he started to talk about, look, I do not expect our coaches, all of our coaches and everyone to be happy about this decision. It's an emotional one, and that's one of the reactions that he expected, quite frankly. And remember, Ohio State Athletic Director Gene Smith put out a statement as well, and they said quite clearly, look, our president and we decided that we were in favor of pushing the season back as well. So there were some people who were outspoken, but not quite as outspoken as Nebraska.
All right. Well, Heather, thank you so much. We'll check back with you again shortly. Let me bring the rest of my crew back in. And there's always a new face here. And this time it's David Pollack who joins us along with Paul and Lewis. And David, let me come to you for the first time this morning. And we'll start with that thought, the idea that any schools, and in this case we're talking about Nebraska, in one of the conference that has decided not to play, trying to put together some other sort of schedule. Do you think that seems even remotely realistic?
First of all, I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm not saying it's the best from a business standpoint, because if I'm Nebraska, $52 million that I'm guaranteed every year, if you think about it, and I'm going somewhere else and I don't get the opportunity to come back, I'm going to be in a bad situation. So, but I like that they care. I like that they're staying competitive. I like that they're saying this is good for my kids. I like that the coaches and the players are like, listen, we want to make this happen. But obviously, there's going to be a lot of outside circumstances. It's just interesting. Greeny, does anybody else find it interesting when Heather just talked about that? Is you can't play in a conference and not be in that conference and play another schedule. And I just look at Notre Dame and I'm like, well, they do it technically every year and they're still involved in this. So can you find a way to make it work like Notre Dame did and for a year? But I think the ramifications for a team leaving a conference, they're probably going to get kicked out the door and probably going to lose millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. And the only reason they have to play right now is because you're in a Power Five and you're in a great conference.
Yeah, I mean, look, the reality of it is the rules are being made by the same people who are asked to enforce them. So in theory, they could make whatever rule they want. They could change whatever rule they want pretty much any time they want. Paul Feinbaum, do you see any way in the world something like that happens?
No, it's not even on the table, Greeny, because of the contracts. And I think Kevin Warren would probably win a lot of support in his league that he needs to win back by just sending a letter to the chancellor at Nebraska and saying, hey, thanks. We'll see you guys later. And by the way, where is Nebraska going? We don't even know if there's going to be college football on the face of the earth, and Nebraska is complaining that it wants to play. It's really ridiculous to think about it. Whether you like the decision or not, you're in a conference, you're profiting. And at last check, Greeny, I don't know. It seems like I covered the national championship game every year. I haven't seen Nebraska anywhere near the national championship game in about 20 years. I haven't seen them come close. Scott Frost is still claiming a national championship from Central Florida. But at Nebraska, he hasn't really done all that much. And I think it's ludicrous and absurd and quite embarrassing for the University of Nebraska to be making this type of noise. They're lucky to be in the Big Ten.
I like that, and I don't disagree. And I've got Desmond back here. Let me get your quick thought on that, Des. What do you think of Scott Frost, Nebraska, or anyone for that matter, talking about, well, if my conference isn't going to play, I'm going to go find someone who does?
Yeah, Greeny, I tell you what, I have a bitter taste in my mouth about that whole thing. I think it's greatly disrespectful to the new commissioner, Kevin Warren, not only for Scott Frost to say that a couple of days ago, but then to have the chancellor and the president of the university back him up. I think it's extremely disrespectful, not only to Kevin Warren, but to the other presidents of the university and to all the other teams. Do you think that they're the only team that really wants to play? Of course not. All the teams and all the coaches want to play, but they're not whining and crying and then talking about an exodus, talking about leaving the conference. I think that at this point, Greeny, I would demand an apology from the chancellor and the president and Scott Frost, and not one behind closed doors, a public apology. Or if I'm Kevin Warren right now, I'm working on the way to get their ass out of the Big Ten because they don't bring that much that they need to be the only group that's sitting out here and not only criticizing the decision, but saying that they want to leave the conference and play somewhere. They ain't, David, they ain't Notre Dame, baby. They ain't got their own TV contract, okay? They can't run independent like that. They don't have that cachet. So at this point,
I hear you.
If I was a part of the Big Ten Conference, today I would demand an apology from them guys, but at the same time, Greeny, I'm working on the way to get their ass up out the conference.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.